Oh, well, I'm here with the amazing Lloyd Clarke.
Don't know about no amazing business, man.
No, big up the man.
Respect you, respect.
So,
Yeah, man.
And Lloyd and I go way back to, and I get some criticism because I just assume that the whole world knows who people are, and of course everyone should know.
Yeah.
But I first came across Lloyd actually when the band was not Jah Warrior, but it was Black Pepper
days. Yeah, they were the days when when the band first started. We used to rehearse at a place called Murrayside Youth Club. That was the days when there were youth clubs all over the country. Am I right in saying that?
You're right in saying that.
Nowadays, I don't think they've got any youth clubs at all. Because any more than 3 people together as a gang. But, back in the day, you could get youth clubs like Murrayside, Thelston, and you would get youth clubs in schools also.
Yeah. And they all had music in Ipswich. Everyone had music.
Everybody had music everywhere, but things and times change,
Yeah, so we were talking with Mel this morning from the Addicts.
Oh, right.
So we were talking about Murrayside, how there was how everyone stored their equipment there. You were in one, all your equipment was in cage on one side, and the Addicts on the other.
Yeah, because how Murrayside operated was, because in those days there were more bands than anything else, and certain areas had more bands than others, didn't they?
Yeah.
Acton had quite a few bands actually, as in groups or whatever you want to call them nowadays. We had the Addicts, we had Jah Warriors. There's a few other
rock bands
as well. And with storage that was one of the hardest things, because if you had quite a bit of equipment, you couldn't store it in one place. But Murrayside had these little storage rooms, and we had quite a bit of equipment. Well, we thought it was not a lot compared to nowadays, but yeah, they gave us this storage room, and we had to walk everything by hand because we couldn't drive, or we were too young to drive and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was some idiot had a van.
Yeah, some idiot had a van. He called himself an idiot, but we don't call him that. Back in them days, there were 3 Johns, as far as we're concerned, yeah? You had John, this is my number 1 John, John Raw, yeah? Without him, we couldn't have done anything. Second John was John Packwood. And there was another John, he was a caretaker of the place.
Oh, John, yeah.
Yeah, but the caretaker, he enlightened us about technology, because he was the first man I saw with a MIDI stereo. Because stereos used to be some big clunky stuff, didn't they? Like a tuner, an amplifier, and so on and so on. He was the first man, everything was compacted. He had a tuner in it, a radio, a mini CD. We'd never seen anything like it. That was John Caretaker. Then John Packwood.
No, it was Paul.
Oh, that was Paul Packwood. Paul Packwood. Sorry. Paul Packwood, he was the caretaker of...
yeah, he was the manager.
He was the manager of Murrayside. And he gave us a hard time. But to be honest with you, I think we deserve to get a hard time done to us. And then this number 1 John for us, he brought us everywhere. He got me out of some sticky situations too. I remember that time when our van broke down at, where was it? St. Noet's, I think. Was it St. Noet's?
Yeah, St. Noet's. So I was over there with Rose. Rose was my wife, and we'd been to visit her parents, or in she was in the village the other side of St. Noet's, and I came through, and I'm probably in the van because I managed to get everyone in, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I saw Lloydie in the street. Now, St. Neots at that time was a little bit white, to say.
A little bit. Yeah, I would say a bit more than a little bit, John.
Yes. So there's Lloydie, his whole family, his dad, were waiting in the pub. They'd broken down, and they'd been to Birmingham, been relative in Birmingham. So you had the sacks of rice and everything with you. And so we powered everyone into the van.
Out of the blue, John, I don't know where John come from. Right place, as I say, right place at the right time.
So he was your angel.
Oh gosh! Not only for that, John helped us out many a times. As in proper breakdowns. If we broke down anywhere, you would think who to phone. He was our AA before AA existed for us, you know. But Johnny was brilliant. This John here, man, he was the first man to get us a gig. First man to get us a gig in a what they call it.
That's fairs, wasn't it?
The fairs. They call them fairs. What they call them now?
The Albion Fair as well. They grew into festivals, didn't they? But,
yeah.
But the East Anglian fairs were a thing by themselves, and there was East Burgold, which had one of the oldest communes in the country, used to put on a fair there, and the stage was there's a guy called Gill, and he built geodesic domes. And before that was the first geodesic dome stage I'd seen, and
they would call them eclectic nowadays, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and so it was that, and I think it was early days because they'd never seen live reggae. Most of those people had never seen live reggae before.
Yeah,
and but it suited that. You can't go to a feral festival now, Maui Wowie or thing, without a reggae band in there. Yeah, that's where reggae survived on that circuit.
Yeah, because in the early days, we were doing a lot of covers in times, weren't we? We were just doing cover of other people's songs before we started writing our own. But to be honest with you, that was what we really wanted to do when we started it, because the original members was me, Joseph, and Ira in Joe's Kitchen. And we always said, we're copying people's stuff, but one day we'll write our own stuff. We'll have an album out somewhere, maybe. But John, man.
Yeah, and then they asked me to manage them, which, and you weren't easy.
Not, well.
You know, like, one of my favourite moments was who was the drummer before Joey?
Alvin Smith.
Alvin Smith, and I came to realise when we had a gig, the mayor's banquet, the next day in the town hall, which was kind of a prestigious gig in Ipswich. Yeah, but locally, and so then and they came in and Alvin had left, and so it was like, who's going to play drums? Well, Joey White will play drums, but Joey White's the bass player. Yeah. Who's going to play bass? Oh, Gordon's brother, or Gordon Mulrain, was our keyboard player.
No, that was Ira's brother. Ira and Aubrey. Aubrey's a keyboard player, and he was a guitarist.
He was a rhythm guitarist, wasn't he?
But they got a younger brother, Gordon. He wanted to be in the band for a long time. He kept on bugging us, but he was too young. And we said, what are you going to play? What are you going to play? I can play anything. But they come from a musical family because his mum played piano. His dad actually came to the country in a band playing on the ships. So that's how his parents got it. Well, not his mother, but his dad was playing guitar through his fare to come to England. And ever since when he came to England, he was one of the Caribbean Steel Band.
Yeah, it was. He was a guitarist with them, wasn't he?
Until he died, But his mum was always playing piano. She was a church lady. She played piano. His sisters played piano. They all played some form of instrument.
So I said, who's going to play bass? And they said, Gordon.
Gordon can play bass.
And so I said, well, how old's Gordon? They said, 12. I thought, oh my God. Can't argue. There's a gig tomorrow. And we...
Even you're laughing left. 12, you think, 12?
So the next day we get down there. He's got his orange stack. He's had those days, when bass players would put two huge orange boxes on top of each other. Yeah. And he stood there, just laid up against it like he'd been there all his life.
Yeah. And he's playing bass till this day.
He is still doing it. Well, he was with Desmond Decker and Prince and
a lot of he's been a session player for a lot of artists.
Yeah,
a lot of artists, even down to Omar, Sean, what's her name, Dawn Penn. Played a lot of them.
When I was laughing, it wasn't because I was laughing because he was 12. I was laughing because you guys just went Well, let's just go with it.
But there wasn't a lot of choices. So then didn't they do stuff and they never tell me, right? So they go down. They presumably the equipment was there, so they didn't need me. So they come back and they say, "Oh, we just won Black Echoes Award." And it was before Black Echoes Award was a thing, you know. Now it'd be huge on television.
See what happened? There was this there was a musical competition in London, and we entered it, and we said, it's going to be rigged, and it's London. They're going to want in London. It was a reggae competition, or black music, a cultural competition, because it's going to be rigged, and it's going to have all of their judges going to be from London, and they're going to know these bands and whatever. Anyway, we just said, let's just go up there. We get knocked out, but we'll give them a hard time. Went to the first heat, we won it. Then we went to a second heat, we won that. The crowd went crazy. We got to the finals, and then we go, we know we ain't going to win the finals because it's going to be rigged out, all these big stars as judges and whatever. And that's for JB Search for Music. JB Music Search for a Star it was. And then we got to the finals and we won it. We never done the contract though, because the winners were supposed to get a record deal. But, you know, it's a crooked record deal. You might as well have been in the Salvation Army band because he'd have got everything. He'd have took all the rights and we didn't actually sign the deal with them. We ended up doing a record for ourselves in the long run, but later on down the line. But yeah,
it's good to know when to say no, though, isn't it?
Yeah, we were naive still about contracts and whatever, but you know, some things you can just see on paper that it's no good. Even the blind can see, as they say, you know. But yeah, that was a JB Search for Music competition. I've still got the plaque somewhere.
Yeah. So all this is going on while I'm managing it, and I haven't got the faintest idea of what's happening because it was sort of like if I needed to know, tell me. Yeah, if I didn't need to know, it didn't matter.
We didn't need no equipment moved at that particular time. But John, we used to give John wasn't the only person we give a hard time. The manager of the club, we give him the hardest time because he'd say,
Paul,
he said, you got to stop rehearsing at 8 o'clock. No, 8 or 9 o'clock. Half hour past, 1 hour past, we're still rehearsing. We go, finish in a minute. I want to go out.
Yeah.
But, there's always some, with a name like Jah Warriors, you know what I mean? Warriors.
So there was one point I had a big blue Luton van, and they'd be in the back, and we were coming out of the club, and about to pull off, and the police pulled in front of us, and so they're keeping me. They were really tricky in those days, weren't they? Yeah. So they were keeping me the talking up the front. Meanwhile, they're giving the band that are sitting in the back of the van a really hard time, and Lloyd turns around to him. Even the jack plugs are paid for.
Because you have to remember, you're going back in the days where coppers, they weren't fair on your colour basis, you know? And they'd look at your gear, and if you had more than what it looked like you'd afford, they'd say you nicked it. And them days, we couldn't afford to buy leads, as in a jack plug to jack. So we'd buy the lead, and then we'd go to one of the music store and buy the jacks. And then somebody just painstakingly sold the leads to the jacks. We'd make them to our own needs. If we needed one for 20 foot, we'd make a 20-foot lead. If we needed a 10-foot one, and that's what we done. And when the cop was looking in there and thinking something was nicked, I go, even the jack plugs are paid for in here, mate. You know? But they were being smart, giving John the run around at the front and giving us a hard time in the back. But they weren't the only. I remember being pulled up in London at a petrol station. We went to put some petrol in the vehicle, and all of a sudden, cop cars turn up, got everybody out, hands on the van, search, not a strip search, but pat search. I go, what are you searching for? She shut that door again. But John got us out of some stick situations. And he opened our eyes to a lot of things as well, especially them fairs. I remember when you got us that Rotham Tree Fair as well. All right. that's enlightening to me because we knew of gigs about on a stage, on an internal, and when we saw these people in a field, you're talking early days for festivals, and then we didn't know nothing about festivals. I remember my dad coming to one of them and one of his mates. I think it was Rotham Tree Fair. It was. We was on stage, we were a young bunch of young lads, and all of a sudden, some hippie girls I don't know what they were on or whatever, but them girls that went nature. And I mean, born nature. And you see after the band make a mistake, left, right, and centre. Oh, it was really funny. That day was a funny day. Like, can you see that? You say, I go, yeah, how could we miss it? About 4 of them went back to nature. All thanks to John. When John would bring us some place, we say, John would say, oh, we've got a gig at so and so and so. We go, where is that? Because we only knew places like cities, like London, Birmingham, Manchester, Coventry, whatever. And John would say, Rotham, this bush over there. And we say, oh, John's got another gig in a bush somewhere, man. Respect. Yeah, man. John, he's opened my eyes to a load of off the beat places, like country places. We live in a country, but most people live in Ipswich, they don't know their surroundings. Most people in London, they don't even know the other side of London because they don't want to walk no more than 2 miles. But yeah, John, you opened my eyes to many, many, many things, man.
And vice versa, because people like your dad.
Yeah, the cultural side.
Yeah, because people talk about those early experiences, but your dad's personal stories.
Oh yeah.
Are like when with Cranes was that he worked at. Was it Cranes or Ransoms?
My dad worked at Cranes, and
it was Cranes, and he was said that they came over as young men.
Yeah.
And sort of land of opportunity, and then and then on the first week, they took out the money for his coat, for his boots, and everything, and he just sat on the Electric House, which is the bus station in Ipswich, sat, tears in his eyes on the pavement. He had half a crown. He was left with half a crown, 25p. Is that 20? No, it's 12.5p.
12.5p.
12.5p in his hand. And
when I sat talking to my dad about them early days of money and whatever, because my dad was 25 when he got here. Well, I was born when he was 25. And he got here a little earlier than that, obviously, because he came by himself. Then he sent for my mum. I was the first one to be born here. And then my sister followed the one what we spoke about earlier on. She was 1 year behind me. But when they talk about working and earning like £2.50 for the week, you think, I go, what do you do with £2.50? And you saved up and sent for mum and this and that. You sent for that person and sent for that person and still had to pay the rent. And he just reminded me, he said there was times when he came in and he said, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. And then you would see them signs on windows, and he was saying that people only think of London and Birmingham and Manchester, but they don't really think about places like Ipswich and whatever, because you go to some of them places back then, they go, where is Ipswich? Never heard of it.
You still do. Yeah, you still go. Yeah. You talk. I went to a black exhibition a cultural exhibition in Guildhall in London.
We played there, believe it or not. We done a gig inside the Guildhall. And sorry for interrupting.
No, please do.
We done a gig as Jah Warriors inside of Guildhall. A German TV station recorded it. They come over and recorded it. And when we went there, the doorman, he looked at us and he went, what are you doing here? Because that's a place for royalty and dignitaries, yeah? And I'd never heard of the Guildhall as such. And when I went in there, I looked around and I thought, oh, that's what they call
all them portraits.
That's why they call it the Guildhall. It's gilded with gold as well. And there's not no artificial gold. And then he goes to us, he was open, he went, people like you don't really come in here. And I went, at first I was going to say, what do you mean people like me? But I knew exactly what he meant. And we went in there and he'd go, don't go over there, not allowed over there. And then a taxi turned up and he went, excuse me for a second, I smell money. And some lady got out of a taxi, and she was a lady. She asked him a question, as in, where is the main hall? He go through them doors, and it's right in front of you, madam. He give him a £30 tip for saying that to him. And I'm talking about 80s, right? And he looked at it, put it in his pocket, he go, I told you I smelt money, didn't I? But when he spoke to us, he was honest with us about us, people like us not ever being able to go in there, not unless I was like a prime minister or a president from another country. You know what I mean? But ordinarily, I wouldn't have been in there, or we wouldn't have been in there.
Got that gig then? What was going on?
It's to do with the German station, really. And to be honest with you, I've never ever even seen the video, because something happened along the way where we lost contact with the guy what was doing it for the German, some German cultural TV. And you have to remember the British are linked to the Germans, aren't they? Oh, yeah. There's a load of linkage going on, royalty linkage and whatever, you know. And I've been searching for it for years. There's another video which I've never seen, which we done, which was Anglia for Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the one over Erland Park?
Oh yeah.
They done a gig for Anglia for Africa. There's all the big bands, the pop bands and whatever. There was the Supremes and Hawkwind, because I went to school with Hawkwind.
Oh, one of my favourite bands.
Yeah, I went to school with Alan Davey.
Oh right.
I mean, him still in contact and whatever. Yeah. He's got another band now. He lives in America now. And there was Hawkwind, Supreme, Ika Mouse, and loads of big acts. That was on Erland Park in Norwich. But our band, being Warriors, we said to the roadie, put our flag up. We got a massive flag with the Zulu warrior. He got a spear and he's just got his shield in front of him and he's just standing like that. And the Anglia for Africa song was Africa, and it had Anglia at the top of it. And they said, you can't put that up to him. And he go, I can. Neville.
Neville.
Yeah. And he
Who was the roadie?
He was our roadie. He climbed up and he covered, our flag was twice the size of the Anglia for Africa flag. And because we done that, they didn't put our piece on the TV. They put everybody else's band, but because we covered that sign up, you know, I mean, they were saying, oh, we're getting back that way. So if you know anybody at Anglia TV, I wouldn't mind getting that footage, because they got the whole thing. The whole thing. But, you know.
That'll be archived somewhere.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
the...
I know where it is.
Do you?
Yeah, it's the Media Archive of Central England. They've got all of Anglian music.
Well, if you can
and
find...
even the stuff that isn't broadcast.
Everything that was at the Anglia Archives is now at Lincoln University.
Well, if you can find Anglia for Africa, I can't remember what year was it, 1980 something. Yeah. The footage is there. And I remember the Supremes going there, because when they came up in their Rolls Royce, they were doing that. Remember Keithy Buchanan?
Yeah.
Keithy was leaning up backstage to go, I don't know who she's waving at. Is she Rolly or something?
So Keithy was a guitarist, and he was originally with Black Ivory.
Black Ivory, yeah.
And I which was sort of the first Ipswich reggae band, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and then when they broke up, and then they sort of Jah Warrior inherited me from Ivory. I think I was an inheritance.
It's like because we're young, they're older than us. I would say about the guys.
Well, at least a year.
More than that. More than that. Funny, because Lenny was around here today, and he was in that band as well.
Yeah.
And I would say they were like 4 or 5 years, the youngest one, older than us. Yeah.
And but the other, you inherited your next manager from them as well, because because there was a guy called Ralph Bernard. Who was the singer
manager of them,
So he's singer with them, and I was looking after him. But Ralph, and there wasn't much going on in Ipswich culturally, so to speak. And Ralph and a few of the businessmen from, like Francis, who's the tailor and so forth, got the Caribbean Cultural Association going, and we brought up theatre groups to the town hall and lost money with them. And but
even the Caribbean Club you're talking about.
Yeah, we brought timber to the Caribbean Club to them, but first of all we did it in the town hall, and then Ralph took you over, and Ralph, what was ages before Bob Geldof did his thing. They did. Ralph put on a benefit for Ethiopia for the first famine. I suppose it was a year or 2 years before
Bob
Geldof would have done. And you played that because that was in the Caribbean.
That was in
And
Caribbean.
as Cruiser, you've got posters somewhere.
Yeah, it's a pity that I couldn't get in the studio, man. But I've got a lot of posters of all them old gigs stored somewhere in a couple of boxes down there. But when I went in there today, I'd have to empty everything to get to the box, you know, as because of how they stacked that up in there. But yeah.
Do you have any photos?
Probably because I've got some old photo albums down there. Because back in the day there was no digital, so everything was by camera, you know, getting developed properly, you know. And I've got some old albums down there. I know I've got some of them Anglia one because I looked at it. I actually took some photos on my phone of some photos.
Yeah.
But I didn't take up everything down there because I got loads of photos because I like storing photos because I've done a bit of videoing and photography myself, you know. But yeah, then back in them days, there's so much you can't cram in 40 minutes, is there?
No, but what are you doing musically now? I've got to know.
To be honest with you, I have done. Well, I started another setup. That's me and Lloyd mainly called Reggae Rainbows.
Yeah.
And we've got an album out. We've got another one which we've recorded already, but it's not been uploaded yet for sale or purchase. And that got on hold because I got a bit ill. You know, life sometimes affect how you get your certain plans. Because I actually caught a bad dose of pneumonia. It nearly took me out. I give thanks for life, man. I have to give thanks every day I wake up, just like yourself, you know. Nobody knows what's around the corner for them, you know. And, you know, you just have to live life and just get on with it. Gordon's not well at the moment. Either.
Really? We'll give him my best when you see him.
Yeah, and I saw Lloyd last week. I see him the most because we've got the thing going. But there's some good songs on there. So if you want to download anything, you'll find us on Reggae Rainbows. That's on all download sites. You know what I mean? iTunes, Spotify, wherever you want to find it.
So just so people know, Lloyd, it's very confusing. There was two Lloyds.
Yeah, in the
so
band.
There's Lloyd Clarke and there's Lloyd Morgan, who comes as often referred to as Captain, and he was the other singer with Jah Warrior. So, and he was born in Jamaica, wasn't he? And he came over here as a sort of teenager.
No, he was born here.
Was he born here?
Well, with the story with him, he was born here. Obviously, all of our parents come from the Caribbean. Yeah. Well, specifically Jamaica mainly. Yeah. Irish, like they came from Nevis.
Yeah.
But with Lloyd and myself and Lenny and the others, it's like parents come from Jamaica. Lloyd was born here, and then his parents decided to go back to Jamaica to live.
That was it.
Because he was born in Warwickshire.
Yeah.
And then he went back, and that's when we started up Black Pepper. He wasn't here. And then me and Joe and I think me and Joe was walking one day because we all lived over in Acton, up between Kingsway, Ransway, and Lindbergh Road and them areas there.
Yeah.
Campbell Road and whatever. And then we're going to the shops one day, and then we heard, "Lady, Joseph, are you that?" We turned around, we said, "I recognize that voice. Man, Lloyd." But there was a confusion, or there is confusion at that time. My name's Lloyd, and his name is Lloyd. So there's either Lloyd Morgan, Lloyd Clarke, Lloyd 1 or Lloyd 2, or Big Lloyd and Little Lloyd. depends on who's calling us, but you know what I mean? And there's still confusion now when they see us because we got a song out and it's called, we haven't released it, that's going to be on the album. It's called Million Light 2. You know what I mean? And when we do it live, people are always laughing because I go, Million Light 2. The two are we together, so we're talking to you. But you know what I mean? Yeah, when we was walking down the road, this is when he came back. We turn around, we just see this guy just hard style yarded stuff, and we turn around, "You're back." Yeah. We said, "We formed a band, man." And he's a hardcore DJing at that time, more than singing.
Yeah.
And then me and Joseph straight away say, he's in the band, man. You know what I mean? We got rehearsals at Morriside tomorrow. You coming? He go, yeah, man. But, you know, the band was, when we started the band, it was me and Joseph in his kitchen with Ira. Because Joseph, he was the first one to be playing live. He's passed away now. He was the drummer, originally the bass player. What happened was he got taught the guitar at a real early age, the age of 8, 9, 10. And he was playing in pubs at 10 and 11. So for when John was talking about the 12-year-old playing bass, for us, that's nothing. Because if you can do it, you can do it. But what it was is his brother was a singer in a band called Jade. And they used to play at pubs and stuff like that. And the lead guitarist taught Joseph how to handle the guitar. So when he was playing in the pub, he'd be the prodigy, the young prodigy, you know? People go, oh, you see that reggae band, they got a little 12-year-old playing in there or whatever. And then he said, oh, I don't like playing this music, it's all cover music. And that's when we started our thing, you know? And then just took off from there. And because his brother played music, he didn't want to see us on the streets because he knew how the police would hustle us or whatever. So we said, look, Mom and Dad work nights, so you can come and rehearse in the kitchen. He'd shut the living room door and do whatever he was doing. And not only that, he had all the equipment from the steel band because he was the driver for the steel band. So we go, okay, can you take at least 2 bits of the drum kit out of there? Put it in the kitchen. We started then, it got too much. We couldn't have 4 people in the kitchen. Not every night, you know, and then we said we're going to have to go to Morriside. And that's when we started going Morriside. At first, we used to walk with the equipment, what we had, to Morriside from our houses. Got too heavy, we got one of them old prams, what are they called now?
Yeah.
Remember them old prams?
Yeah.
The ones what got that.
Oh yeah.
What are they called again? They got,
well, they were prams. So
Yeah.
that's what they were.
but they got Blue Cross, is it?
Yeah, there was
A
Blue Cross
Blue
or
Cross.
Pedigree.
Yeah, the Blue Cross pram. We would take the pram bit out of it because they had suspensions, didn't they?
Yeah.
We'd take the pram bit out of it and put a box on top of it and chuck our gear in it and just push it to practice.
Yeah. Because the first time I saw you was at the festival we put on the back of Morriside.
I've got a photo of that.
And
Yeah.
because you were the last band on.
Yeah.
And all that there was a copper that really hated the music there.
Oh yeah.
And I remember.
I know the copper's name.
Yeah. So
he hated us too.
Yeah, and
Oh,
he didn't want you to go on, and he wanted me to stop the festival because I was running it with Geordie.
How frank can I be on this?
We just a word, just keep the language straight.
Yeah.
So, but what you probably don't even know this, but you were about to go on stage and he wanted to pull the plug.
Yeah.
And of course, all the black kids in Acton had waited to see you. So I turned around and
That's probably PC Burgess.
Yeah. So
At the time,
I say, if you want to go on that stage and tell these kids that the only other black band playing this today isn't going to play because you said so, you're welcome to go on that stage. And I'm getting angrier and angrier. And there was a big punk pulled me back. So calm down, John. Leave it, Constable.
So you hear that?
Rock's mum.
Oh,
took
right.
Rock's
Yeah.
Ian Claxton's mum.
Claxton, yeah.
Took me to the back of the truck to calm me down. But you went on.
Yeah.
I managed to keep the argument going until you got on.
I didn't know about that, but you see how John defend us? You know what I mean? That's why I give enough respect to John. I don't care what anybody want to say about anybody. I don't care who hates you from who don't hate you. I deal with the person how they deal with me. You know what I mean? You've always dealt with me good, man. Always, ever since I've known you. You've dealt with me good. Even when we was in trouble. You see us and know us. You know, and then some people might say, they're troublesome or whatever. But people might judge a book by its cover. You know what I mean? And you're not like that. You don't judge people by their cover. And I don't believe anybody should be judged by the cover of their book, you know. you can't tell what's inside that book until you open the pages and go through it, you know. And that's with everybody in life, you know what I mean? You might look at someone and go, "Oh, I don't like that person," but until you get to know them, it might be the total opposite. It might be the person you love the most, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I did not know that, John, about that.
Well, no, it's it was just one of those things. I just remember it because I remember the reaction of other people. You know, this big punk, I can't remember his name, but he was ex-army and he had orange hair, just pulling me off, and then
we knew a lot of people in the neighborhood, even though there's a couple of racist cops in the neighborhood, and I'm not just saying that. It's what they said to me, what made me knew they were racist, and when he said it to me, it really opened my eyes to racism. I remember because when I was in school, I'd done a lot of sports. Yeah,
because you could have been a professional
footballer. Yeah. And anyway, this because I played at Ipswich Town, and Bobby Robson was saying, "Oh, you keep going at him." But besides that, I had a cartilage operation and a cartilage out, and I had a brace on my leg, and I couldn't run because obviously I just had that operation. And it was last day of school, and there was a tradition with all schools that any buses that went past, they chucked egg and flour at them. And all these kids were chucking flour and eggs at the bus, and I didn't because I knew I couldn't run. I saw this cop, some kids done what they'd done and run off. I was on my crutches, and he goes, "Oh, you should be back in the jungle, swinging in the trees where you belong." And I looked at him and I went, I go, "What tree is that?" And then he turned on somebody else, and I went, "Oh man," you know. And when a cop was supposed to look out for you, says that to you in your face, and gosh, you know what I mean? And all you can do is you scratch your head and you go, "Boy, you don't know if you can phone a cop or if you're in trouble there, can you?" If you're in trouble and a cop told you that, would you be calling the coppers the next day? If you really needed a copper, would you call one? And it's not until you get, because I was like 13, 14 around that time. And then it's when you get older, you realize that you got good cops and bad cops. You got good white people and bad white people. You got good black people and bad black people. Same with Indians, Chinese. It's good and bad all over the world. And that's why you can't judge a book by its cover. You have to actually open the book and say, "Yeah, this is a good book. I like this book." Or "This book is a bad one," man, you know?
Yo, you've been an open book today, which I must thank you for, and a great part of of this project. So I won't shake your hand because it doesn't work
properly today. Yeah.
Well, this month.
I remember another time we broke down somewhere. Well, I think we broke down, and when we couldn't make the money, we were hustling to make money. So when we wasn't using the band's van for equipment, we would say, okay, if somebody wanted a removal job done, we'd do that. And I think we'd done a job in London, and we was picking up the gear to come here. We got all the way there, and the van broke down outside the person's house before we even packed it. And I swear blown, we loaded it, and I think we called John, said, "John, we need some help here to get our van home." But we didn't want to leave the van in London. And I think John come and picked us up and dragged us back. And he said, "Where you want it dropped off?" And I think it was on Queensway in Acton. We left it there, unloaded the van, got paid, and then we got the van repaired with the money. You know what I mean? So John helped us in more ways than one, not just musically. He's helped us with life, you know. He's opened my eyes to not just on musical terms, as in what music can do for one, but he's opened my eyes to places, and he's opened my eyes culturally, because, you know, he's one of a few white people what's look beyond the color of a man's skin. You know, there's a lot of people what look beyond that, but John was one of the early ones. And there was, like I said, Paul Packwood. He was another one which he would give us a hard time, but he was a good man deep down, because he could have easily banned us from that club. Easily, because you know how much trouble we gave everybody.
Yeah, I was forever trying to be the bridge between you and Paul.
Yeah. he tried to ban us many times. One time he did ban us for about 1 or 2 weeks, but you know, I mean, even though he banned us, we still went up there. You know what I mean? Because, well, at the end of the day, the youth club was supposed to be a youth club. And if you haven't got anything to do while go to the youth club, what are you going to do? You're going to be on the streets causing trouble. And that's why I think they should have these youth clubs. That's why he said the youth club should be back instead of just having the kids hanging out on the
Oh
street.
yeah, I put that up the other day, didn't I? You know, yeah, I put that up on the Facebook thing that people should, you know, everyone's talking about knife crime and stuff, and they're not, you know, how they're dealing with it. You know, why they're not doing that correlation between the destruction of the youth.
Do you know they tried to shut down Maryside, and I was one of the ones that saved it.
Yeah, and it's going now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it going now? Because I was in touch with Maxie.
Before Maxie, what happened was when my man got lost his life in Acton, drove past the place, and I looked in the window and it says, down for demolition in 6 weeks' time. I went, what? No notification to anybody. And then I got into it, phoned up a few people at the council. They didn't know about it. And I went, so who is this? Who was that and that and that and that? And I got a few girls on the case as well to help me phone up. And then all of a sudden it got stopped.
Nice.
It just got stopped, and I'm thinking, out of the blue, because what was a shock to me is that they closed the tennis court behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, why would you close down a fitness place and put flowers there? But anyway, that's another day's story.
Yeah, well, that's an unfolding story. So maybe when we're both on our crutches, we can make another film of that.
At least it's still going though.
It is. Yeah. Well done for that. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. You've been brilliant.
No, thank you, man, for being part of my life. You know? And it's funny, when he phoned me up, I don't change my phone number, never does he. And he phoned me up and I went, John Rule, Walton. And he went, you know it's me? I went, yeah. I go, only people what pay their bills keep the numbers long. People what don't pay their bills, they change the number regular.